Hello and welcome back to Reactivity TV. I'm Amy Albero and I'm a licensed therapist.
I am Chris. I'm not a licensed therapist, but what I am is excited to see my boy Jack back on screen for at least a few moments. He didn't get a ton of screen time, but it was enough just to sate the palate that is Jack. But before we get too deep into it, tell the good people what we're doing here today.
Yes, we are here talking about Joan's season of The Golden Bachelorette. This is episode 8, also known as the Men Tell All. So we're going to be giving our thoughts and opinions to what we saw and things that we learned or got reminded of during this episode. But before we get into all of that, please be sure to hit the like button at the bottom of this video and hit subscribe. We love seeing our subscriber list grow. We love all of the engagement and conversation happening in our comments. Keep it coming.
Yeah, and please also hit that bell icon so that you're alerted anytime we post new content to the channel. So, Men Tell All. We all know from past seasons, this is my least favorite episode of the season. Oftentimes, it's just a train wreck. We don't get a lot of new, interesting, fun stuff. What I can say about this one, right off the bat, is we didn't learn anything new. It wasn't super interesting or engaging, but it also didn't meander in ways that other ones have. So in terms of a men tell all or a woman tell all, I'm going to give it a passable rating, right? Like it was a nice, quick, solid 90 minutes in, out, no extra fluff. And we got to see some highlights of some stuff that we actually really enjoyed. Because the thing about this season that we've said many times now is it started with a bang, it's ending with a whimper, and they really, I think, understood that and leaned into showing us some really exciting and interesting things that we saw early to remind us why we fell in love with the show at the very beginning, and hopefully try and distract us from the last couple of episodes that have really been less interesting, we'll say. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I really felt like, as the last couple of episodes have felt a little bit like a chore to watch, just because they're not as entertaining as the front part of this season. It was a nice little refresher. I felt like, again, I know we've said this, like I felt like I was watching a completely different show or reminded of a completely different show. So I just, again, want to give it up to casting, who cast such a great group of men. And I think, I agree in that they moved it along. I don't think it needed to be 90 minutes. But I did appreciate the swiftness in which they moved things. We didn't linger too long on any one person, on any one thing. And I thought the moments that they were highlighting were also really meaningful to me. Like I was still, getting tearful at what they showed and things like that. So I enjoyed it. But, I think what we expect from a men tell all or a women tell all is drama, like drama from the season to get stirred up. And the beauty and maybe the disappointment of this show is that there's not a lot of drama. And so that means like the entertainment, so to speak, value is down. And I think that's why the men tell all was just kind of like recaps rather than, as you're saying, learning new things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was one prevailing thought that I had throughout this entire episode, and that was a comparison with the Love is Blind recap that just happened, right? Love is Blind. You made me watch.
Different.
Yeah, well, you made me watch the Love is Blind season. You made me watch the recap. That was an absolute train wreck from a production standpoint, from a flow perspective, from a production quality standpoint. There was almost nothing positive you could say about that in any way, shape, or form, other than the fact that it had a little bit of drama. But even the questions that were asked, the lines of discussion that were taken were awful. The editing was awful. There was really not much positive to take away from that entire thing. And then you kind of look at this show where you had a tight 90 minutes. The stuff that was talked about were questions that people kind of wanted answers to or wanted to dive a little bit more into. You didn't linger anywhere. The pacing was fantastic. I mean, it just, comparing those two kind of back to back, you really kind of see, because we've oftentimes said Love is Blind is perhaps a better show for analyzing, like actual, it's more realistic to real life dating than the Bachelor series is. And so you can extract a little bit more. But there's no question that when it just comes to good quality production, editing, pacing, The Bachelor recap crushes Love is Blind.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and to defend Love is Blind, I can't believe I'm saying this. Um, but the Bachelor's had 20 some odd years to kind of get this right. And I think Love is Blind is turning 5.
Yeah, I mean, and that's only counting the domestic. Each of these shows
Mhm.
also does have international, but
Mhm. Mhm.
Bachelor's. I think I counted at one point a few seasons ago, and this was like season 48 across, or 49 across all of the sub categories between the Goldens and the BIPs and Bachelorette, Bachelor. So they've got some experience. Plus they've got Australia, they got Canada, what have you, right? So
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
Um, so obviously, the format of this was a little bit different, even for a men tell all. Typically, we have some context. We have a good chunk of it is going to be the guys on the couch, and then there's at least going to be some component of it where they're pushing kind of the plot forward. We got no pushing of the plot forward in this at all. And so it was really just the guys on the couch. So that really means we're going to have no good date, bad date, my favorite segment. So disappointed. So really the structure of today's podcast is going to be much more kind of discussion on various different things, because there isn't really a true thing to recap here, right?
Mhm.
So with that, um, I guess my first question to you is what maybe was the one thing that you were reminded of that maybe you forgot about, that either it hit a note, either a positive or a negative note, but something you're like, oh, I forgot about that, but man, that was awesome, or I really wish they had let me continue to forget it.
Mm. Well, I think the immediate, like, I will reference my notes in a sec, but like my immediate um reaction is um seeing how happy Charles L was, like, through time, like um in the like recaps that they were doing,
Mhm.
and it just like really struck me, like seeing kind of his journey like condensed like that, and seeing how happy and how outgoing and how like alive he became in this short amount of time. I think kind of like getting that vantage of it
Mhm.
stuck out to me like as a really memorable part of tonight, like in a way, of course, things that like really resonated with me while we were watching it week by week, but like seeing it all packed together was a reminder of that and Charles's journey.
Mhm.
What about you?
Yeah. I remembered how much I like Jack. No, I mean, we we hit a lot of the same notes kind of throughout the season. Um, a lot of the brotherhood, we hit a lot on the brotherhood stuff, a lot on the camaraderie, and even though it maybe wasn't something that I necessarily forgot about, like kind of seeing a lot of those, same thing you said, like kind of succinct, montages across all of it, I thought was just really kind of cool, because
Mm-hmm.
obviously the second half of the season, it's been more focused on Chalk and his nonsense, and the group has dwindled down to nothing. And so we haven't really gotten to see that as much. And I like it. I that's been the highlight of the season for me. As I get older, trying to imagine, what how life is going to be when I get 20 or 30 years older. It's very interesting to see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One thing that's very common among men is men being more solitary creatures, women being kind of more community-based creatures. We oftentimes don't really have strong friendships. We might have one or two friendships, but we're much more kind of activity based, and so you don't really often see groups of men in older years, or you don't have, like, I can't say, hey, go look at my father. My father never hangs out with other random men. It just doesn't happen, right? All of my friends' fathers, like, I can't think of one of them that's ever like in a group of guys. So it's actually something that we don't see very often, in a way that like the Golden, the Golden Bachelor cast, all of the women, like you see women in their 60s and 70s in communities all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so while it's interesting to see, it's also not necessarily a unique thing to see
Mm-hmm.
in the wild, so to speak. And this is a unique thing to see, and it's a fascinating kind of case study. And for somebody like me who actually likes the social experiment and likes to you know see some of this. I dug it. Getting a call back to the earlier part of the season where that was more prevalent was yeah, I liked it.
Yeah. Well, of the new footage that we saw, things that, the never before seen stuff, was there a moment there, things that they had shown that you enjoyed?
I mean, I don't want to bury the lead. And maybe it's not the proper place to drop this in, but the Mark sticky note actually was. I mean, that was so. There are times where people do things, and you question whether or not they do them for the kind of the publicity or notoriety that they're going to get from it. And then there's times where people do things, and you know that they're never asking for it. It's just between two people, and there's no intention for it to be publicized, right? And in shows like this, you oftentimes wonder like how much of behavior is intended to be publicized versus not.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no question in my mind that the note that we learn about that Mark left for Jonathan was one of those moments that was never intended to be publicized. Mark never had real interest in it becoming public. It was really just a heartfelt thing, that on a day where he thought I might be going home today, and this is just something that needs to be said. I'm not going to wake the guy up to tell him. I'll just leave him a note. And
In a place I
that
know he'll find it as well, like
yeah.
in his coffee cup.
Yep, exactly. I thought that was probably the most touching moment of the episode, and definitely it's just one of those things where it just shows the quality of character of the people on the show, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just something you can't fake that type of
Mm-hmm.
stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that was probably the thing that I really enjoyed the most of new. Like we've got a very few small tidbits of information that's kind of like new, and I would say that
Mm-hmm.
that is one of the bigger, more noteworthy things that I think we got.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was such a really, as you're saying, like character exposing moment. I know that there were some questions around, Mark and him being a producer plant, and how authentic is he, or is this? And I think I have said, like, I've never questioned Mark's authenticity. I think the producers knew that, like, America really wanted Mark to be the star of the show, and so they gave him opportunities, and maybe encouraged, like, the connection more than other contestants. But Mark appears to be a very genuine guy, and this
Mm-hmm.
just felt like such a confirmation of that. What a really just nice, thoughtful thing to do. I mean, wow, it was beautiful. I was not expecting, like, even the first post-it was enough.
Yeah.
And then, like, the post-it with the affirmations, it was just, what a guy.
So while we're on the topic of Jonathan, I did think that there was a couple of because they kept it moving and the pacing was what it was. I felt like we got a lot of hot seats, but these hot seats moved quickly. So Jonathan
Yeah.
was in the hot seat, and his entire hot seat was really just talking about this note. Obviously, we know it's edited. They're in there for like 8 hours, and they cut this thing way down by the end of it. But like, but I actually thought the most interesting thing for Jonathan that was not in the hot seat that he said was he did end up finding somebody after the show, and he is dating. And
Mm-hmm.
thus, my prediction that he would be our next Golden Bachelor is clearly not happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to come back later because I want us to predict who we think did the most to become potentially the next Golden
Yeah.
Bachelor. But
Yeah.
that was both bittersweet because I'm really happy for him because he seems like such a nice, genuine guy. And he's so beloved by, I think, America at this point, as well as the guys in the house and Joan. But he is not going to be our Golden Bachelor, presumably next, unfortunately. So
I know, that
I
was
would
my
have loved that.
immediate thought. It was like,
Yeah.
damn, there goes our next Golden Bachelor.
Yep.
Um,
But that
yeah,
means
yeah,
left the
happy
door
for
open,
him.
you know?
What's that
But that means the door has been left open
for?
for somebody else because he just seemed like the obvious pick. And so
Mm-hmm.
now, could it be Mark? Could it be Pascal? Could they go a little bit rogue and do maybe somebody like a Gary?
Mm.
I don't know if they can do Gary. They can't have back-to-back Garys, right? Is that a rule?
I don't know. At least this Gary is spelled like the
Actual name? Yeah.
the way you would expect. Yeah,
Yeah.
a little less confusing.
So other than the sticky note for Jonathan, what did we learn anything else new or interesting Kind of maybe something with Pascal a little bit, but outside of maybe Pascal, I can't really think of anything new that we learned about any of the guys. Am I mistaken? Do you think of anything you come across?
Yeah, I think important to note, Michael shared that prior to
Oh, that's
going
right.
on the season, he got a cancer diagnosis, and his kids encouraged him to go on the show, and that he had shared that he was really happy he did, because a year that could have been really really challenging was also like really positive and fun, based on his experience with the show, and that he's doing okay. So that I thought was meaningful, and that it also speaks again to like the healing power of camaraderie, connection, friendship, positivity, and not saying that those are the things that cured or treated his cancer, but more that those that is medicine in and of itself, to be surrounded by community and care and love and positivity. And so, I imagine that that did help him greatly.
Mhm. And the interesting thing is that he sandbagged that information the entire season,
Yeah.
and that would have been, you want to talk about a guaranteed sympathy rose. You want to talk about the trauma dump story that he could have dropped. That
Hmm.
one of the 20-year-olds on one of these shows would have just been dying to drop that this
Yeah.
first chance they
Yeah.
get. And the fact that there was discretion here, I think again speaks to the quality and the character of an individual, and
Hmm.
understanding what kind of the important things are, and not saying that that is not important, but like, you know if you're trying to get to know somebody, there are more important qualities, a more important piece of information to convey, than potentially that, at least in this setting.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I did forget about that, so thank you for reminding me. I want to shoot over to Pascal. So in my mind, Pascal, this is the third episode in a row where really I think he again shined and sort of carried the episode in a lot of ways. His time on the couch I thought was kind of the most interesting, because it had kind of the most suspense in what he might say. I don't think we necessarily got a lot of new information, but in the blooper reels, in the various different montages we got, he just continues to show up as the comedian, as
Hmm.
just a fun-loving guy, as I mean, the fake meditation
That
with
was
the
hilarious.
facials was hilarious. I mean, he did he do enough to potentially, was this like the audition, did he do enough to potentially be our next Golden Bachelor?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had that in mind, though. I mean, it's a little dicey because, while the previous episode was taped months ago at this point, it's a little risky because he was really just kind of steeped in heartbreak. And
Mm-hmm.
so would he be ready to be not be their lead? I think he could absolutely carry a show. It's more like, is he ready for what the show, being the lead of the show, might mean in terms of his like readiness for a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I almost wondered if part of the reason why he was going down the, I'm ready to tear my walls down now, was sort of the audition for it,
Mm.
especially with Jonathan now being off the table. Pascal seems, I mean, would you rather have Mark or Pascal?
Well,
I
Mark
mean,
is reportedly dating Nathan Scott's mom from One Tree Hill.
oh, wait, Nathan Scott or Lucas Scott?
Nathan Scott.
The
Deb.
blonde woman, Deb. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. Interesting. I would be very excited to see a season with Pascal. I
Hmm.
really would,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. He's very entertaining. He's handsome. I mean, he's like literally like the epitome of what the show used to be about, like an eligible bachelor, like someone that
Mhm.
is, wealthy, successful, you know, again, has the personality. Like he is the total package. It's just, again, the readiness factor. And, it sounds like he's a very insightful guy. He's self-aware. We hear him say in a little bit of a different way, like why his wall is up, and that it relates to the way that he was parented, and that his parents weren't really forthcoming with love. And and so he learned to be very reserved, as it related to showing love, and recognizing that that is going to get in the way of finding a partner. And he had even said it wasn't it wasn't Joan, that had something wrong with her, but that he wasn't able to give her what she wanted. And And so, good learnings to have and important if he does want to continue in a relationship with someone.
Mhm. Yeah. So I guess transitioning over to someone else who appears to have had a bit of a transformation over time as well, Charles L. Shall we talk about him for a second?
I am so happy Jesse addressed the hair because like we were like an hour in and no one said anything. And I was like, how are we not going to say anything?
It was the side by side. I didn't notice until the side by side. And it was
Mm-hmm.
so blatantly apparent. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so the hair, he doesn't strike me as a vain guy. So I think that was my first thought was he strikes me as a very humble guy. What's with the dyed hair?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like your insight as somebody who knows people and brain stuff. What do we think the hair was this like his daughter was like, Dad, we're gonna get your hair done? Was this like thrust upon him by producers or his daughter? Or was this something like maybe it's a feeling transformative from the experience and just looking to make a little bit of a change?
Mm-hmm.
Or did what do we think is happening here?
I truly don't know. I was so surprised because it seemed so out of character from like the
Mm-hmm.
Charles we know. And so like again, this is based on not my clinical opinion. This is just assumptions I made were, that it was like his daughter's influence potentially. But then when we saw the photo of him and his wife of 30 some odd years, and he had dark hair then for like, that's when I was sort of like, oh, maybe this is his way of consciously or not like saying that he's ready for love again, to kind of like go back to um like a former self and like who was in love in a relationship, to kind of like put that like uniform on again in a way. But I don't really know. It really I wasn't expecting him to be the one with a like glow up.
Mm-hmm.
So, in addition to, of course, talking about his hair transformation and his kind of like healing transformation on the show, Jesse did ask Charles about his readiness to date now, and Charles did say that he was initially really worried about what his daughters would think or what their reaction would be to him starting dating again, and that he also referenced that he was worried about his family or his relatives as it relates especially to his culture. And so it sounds like also coming on this show and getting kind of validation, not from America per se, I'm sure that helped, but from his loved ones, that like they're happy for him, that they want this for him, that this is okay for him to pursue a next relationship, that it felt like he got like the permission he needed to move forward. And so he's got like all sorts of readiness now in order um to make a next move, to find another happiness.
So I'm happy you brought this up. This has been something about the human experience that has always confused me. I've always been an individual that really doesn't ever ask or need the permission of others to pursue what I think is the right course of action for me or what I view to be the moral position. Um, Yet this is something we continually see over and over again, just in life in general, but certainly on shows like this. What is it about the human experience that is so demanding of acceptance from third parties or outside parties?
Because I mean, this is again, I mean, I feel like evolutionary psych comes up so much, but like this is evolutionary here. Think about what we needed to survive back way back in when we were cave people. Like being part of a community and being part of a group helped us remain safe and alive. And so like needing to be accepted as part of a group is something that is inherent in, I was going to say all of us, but apparently not, in most of us, because it's improves our fitness to survival. It's when it goes to an extreme in either way, when all we rely on is external approval. All we rely on is that external validation and needing to fit in. That's where it gets really dangerous in a sense. That's where we lose our sense of self, and we aren't as resilient, and we don't thrive as much. And similarly, like if you go around and you really don't give a crap what anyone thinks, then you're going to be more isolated. You're not going to be as included, and that is statistically shown to be really poor for mental health. So either way, either pole of caring too much and not caring enough, not good. We like a middle ground for this.
And that's all fair, and I agree with you on the evolutionary point, right? I mean, that's where most of the inherent understandings of social behavior come from, right? Why do we all inherently know that murder is bad? Why do we all inherently know that any sort of abuse of children is bad? Like, because that would get you exiled from your community, and then a bobcat eats you in the middle of the night because you don't have fire and you have no protection, right? So, like, I'm with you all there, but I do think that there's a aspect of this where it's one thing we know. I think we know where the bounds are of like what's clearly unacceptable that gets you exiled to the Bobcats. But something as simple as, hey, I want to get back out there and date seems pretty small in comparison. That's not probably getting you exiled, right?
I don't know enough about Charles's cultural background to know actually if that would, shun someone from their community. There are many communities where, with divorce you would be kind of exiled, with infidelity you'd be exiled. So I mean, I think there deserving. I mean, I think that there are cultural norms that are at play that could actually relate to being excluded in a really meaningful way.
That's me showing my bias, wasn't it?
Incredibly so.
For all of those, is it polyamorous? Is that what those people are called? As much as I like him, though, I don't think I want him to be our next Golden Bachelor. Golden Bachelor. Right?
I hear you. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm not sure that I would either. I just don't know why. I need to think about that. And I think part of me is like, does he have enough sex appeal for that? Because I think you still need it, even at the like golden stage.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Joan was selected for a reason because at she's 61, hot. She's hot. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I want to switch over to another question. I mean, it's sort of burying the lead a little bit here, but like, there really wasn't anybody who really needed a redemption arc. They're really the only real villain of the season, maybe, and even that's a stretch, would be Chuck, right? And even that, I think it's a real stretch to call him a villain.
Villain with the guys, you mean?
Yeah, among the cast, yeah.
Like where there was drama.
Yeah, so it's really hard to say like who got the redemption arc or who got the opportunity for redemption arc. But I think the closest approximation we have is maybe Kim. Right?
I was going to say that, yeah.
So I kind of want to jump over to him for a second because, he didn't have the best edit. He kind of seemed like kind of a pain in the ass, right?
Yeah, really uptight, which you would expect from, someone in his position of being a naval captain.
Yep. But at the, we did his montage. And during his montage, he was laughing. He seemed to be having a good time. It seemed to be genuine. And the guys, it wasn't like he was getting any kind of cold shoulder. The guys were laughing along with them, and he was getting the fist bumps and whatnot and the pats on the back. So even despite that, some of the guys definitely indicated like maybe a little bit too much. He still, it didn't feel as though that there was any sort of animosity or anybody was really, like kind of put off by him. And he seemed to like genuinely capable of laughing at himself. So if we had a redemption arc for somebody, which I'm not saying we do, but I would say if the closest thing was the thing to Kim, I think, we got one.
I think it's like whose stock went up and whose stock went down. Yeah. Right.
Yep.
And I think Kim's definitely went up, and as did the Mansion Men song. That the Mansion Men song, that stock went up with the
sung by real singers. It actually was not that bad. I thought much higher of the quality of the lyrics when it was sung by an actual chorus.
Yeah. No, that was great. And then I loved, again, shows a lot of his character, but also his values. When they finished performing, Kim went down and shook every single man's hand and said thank you. Like, just a true gentleman that you
Yeah.
would expect again from his background. So yeah, I agree with you. I when I saw Kim laughing at himself, I was like, oh, okay. Like either you saw yourself on screen and were like, fuck, I need to loosen up,
Mhm.
or you know, they just caught you at these moments where you were your most uptight and you can, you know, laugh at yourself. Either way, I think good for him. I loved seeing that. I was a little like gonna get cringed out, I think, by him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we had a whole bunch of really great guys that were all very mature and respectful, and so we were always at a there was always a possibility that we were just going to not have enough drama, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just possible that editing just went digging, and every guy had like 30 seconds. And it just so happened that they had 2.5 minutes worth of stuff that they could piece together with Kim. And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
he's our guy. He's all we
Yeah.
got. And everything else was fantastic. And all they had were these like couple of minutes worth of stuff. And that's the most they could get. That wouldn't shock me either. And so it's really easy to laugh because like, yeah, that wasn't an actual representation. It's just what the cast gave production, and they had to do something, right?
Yeah.
That wouldn't shock me at all either, you know.
Um.
Um,
Y-
what I find more interesting is that it's been months and he still knew every lyric, and
yes.
Jesse sang along. He knew every lyric too.
Well, I do think they had like a teleprompter with the lyrics, but
Oh, is that true? Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
yeah. Um. But yes, it appeared that he knew every single lyric while the choir was singing.
Yeah. I wonder if that's going to be like a hit on Spotify. That's going to go to top 10 on Spotify. Think about it. He might, yeah, he might be the next
Imagine.
great recording artist.
He could
He
be. You never
he's
know.
definitely not worse than the current like top 10 recording artists out there.
Yeah. Good for him.
Oh yeah.
Um. What I will say, someone whose stock went down. Well, actually, who do you think? I have my opinion.
Stock down. Oh, that's a tough one. Everyone just kind of performed. Let me think about that. Who do you think stock went down?
Um, except one who was noticeably just a skin sack, and that was Jordan, who could have been
Oh,
there, could have not been there. Like he had a hometown, this man, right? And yet, like, not even one time did we get one soundbite from him. Not
we
about
we got a we got
anything.
a we got a fist bump at one point.
But nothing. We got nothing. And I think
But
that
is
was
that really
just
surprising?
well, it's just so indicative of like it was almost validating to the reaction that you and I were having of like
Why is he here?
this
Why are we
why
on this
is he
date?
here? Why are we doing this? This is a waste of time. This is a
Hmm.
waste of a spot. He literally did the least tonight.
Yes, I mean when you really think about like who that we cared about didn't get time. Like Christopher got time. He was a nobody on the show.
Mm-hmm.
CK got time. He was a
Mm-hmm.
nobody on the show. Um,
Greg
you
got a
know,
lot of time.
Greg got some time, but he at least did some. He was notable, right?
Yeah.
Jack was out quick, but
Mm-hmm.
Jack got his 30 seconds in there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, people who did far less and were out way earlier, um, got time, and he got
Mm-hmm.
nothing.
Mm-hmm.
They're recording this for 8 hours, and in 8 hours, nobody could piece together anything that was interesting that he had to say. I mean, I feel vindicated, and the people in the comments who thought we were being too hard on Jordan. I mean, I just feel like
It's not about Jordan specifically. It was just like the lack of connection.
yeah, yeah, and also it just didn't feel like he was really ready for
Yeah. Yeah.
where he was going down. Yeah. I've touched on Jack a couple of times, so I do want to touch on Burgergate here for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to break with Jack here for a moment. There's two things that I have to break with Jack on. So he's complaining that there should not be barbecue sauce on burgers. That is his contention. Okay. He's wrong on two accounts here. The first is barbecue sauce on hamburgers is delicious
As a
and
condiment.
deserves to be on burgers. It's delicious. The second thing is the true Burgergate scandal that happened here is that they put tinfoil down on the grill and then grilled the burgers on the tinfoil.
Agree. I
This
don't know why they
is
did that.
absolutely, yeah. I mean,
Why? Why would you want
one,
your burgers to get boiled?
it exactly. It boils the burgers. You don't. What the reason you grill, right? It's similar to like sautéing. What you want is you want that nice crisp edges so you lock in the juice. That's why it's so important where you want the juice to stay inside, so you have to seal all the edges, and then you slowly cook it up. All the juice jumps all the way to the center, and that's why you let the meat rest so that all the juice then can kind of go back towards the extremities, and then you bite into that burger and it's delicious and moist while hot, right? That's how you cook meat, right? Red meat in general. But what happens is when you put it on tinfoil, the juice that does leak out sits there, and now you never get a solid sear, and it actually boils, and you end up getting this weird texture. And the fact that he didn't call that out is, I this is where Jack and I we are
your
diverging
monologue here. What it just reminded me of. So Jack said something tonight, and I was like, I get it. I know why Jack is Chris's spirit animal. Jack said, I'd like to have I'd like to have not said nothing, but that's not my thing.
You're my boy, Jack.
And I was like, well, damn. Here they are. Kindred spirits in a pod. Yeah. Who just keep on yapping.
Hey, look, I am not wrong about this tinfoil. So I actually...
I agree with you about the tinfoil. But I do want to clarify that you do not use barbecue sauce as a marinade. You use it as a condiment.
Correct. Yes. But I mean, I'm not opposed to a marinade either. It's just, if I'm ordering a burger, I'm not gonna ask them to marinate the burger
with barbecue sauce. Can you please share for the audience what your burger order is every Friday night?
So our date night.
Yeah.
We go to the same place, members there. And well, it's a burger. So I'll get a burger, medium rare. They want to put cheese and bacon on it. So no cheese, no bacon. They then want to give me a brioche bun. I am sorry, but how pretentious do you have to be to get a freaking brioche bun? I want a good old fashioned sesame seed bun. So I sub out the brioche bun for a sesame seed bun. Then it comes with ketchup and burger sauce. So I have to get a side of barbecue sauce in addition. And then they, some crispy fries. Really, the crispy fries. I'm fine with the regular fries, but you like to eat my fries and you prefer crispy fries. So the crispy fries are really for you.
Yeah, and then, I could reset your order.
And then two pickles on the side. Go ahead.
Yes. A greens salad, chopped and tossed, no cheese. A burger, no cheese, no bacon. On one of the lowbrow buns, none of this shitty brioche bun, like a sesame bun. See, ask the chef if they have one in the back. I also want a side of barbecue sauce if you've got it, and crispy fries and 2 pickles, and another Diet Coke while you're at it.
You forgot it's medium rare.
Oh fuck!
And also, the 2 pickles are for you. You want the pickles.
Well, you still order them.
I do, but they're for you.
You do my bidding.
Chris is not
burger,
in charge.
Medium rare, no cheese, no bacon. None of this brioche bullshit. Give me a sesame bun. They've got them. Go ask.
They do on Wednesday night buffet night. They have the sesame buns. So that's a great burger. What are you talking about? And then you complain.
I'm very excited for you to have your burger on Saturday, so I could have your fries and your pickles.
Yeah, we're going back.
And a bite of your burger, of course.
We get to go back. Date nights on Saturday night this week. So, So going back to Jack here, that was definitely for me. That was Burgergate. Me and Jack, as much as I love Jack, we're going to diverge on those two topics. But other than that, I thought Jack also, I mean, did he maybe carry the night? I don't know. Maybe I'm
No,
just,
I
I'm
think
not,
Pascal did.
I'm not, I'm not saying he carried the night. I'm just, there's like a question mark at the end of that. Did he carry the night? I don't know. We should consider that possibility.
One thing I wanted to ask you about is what were your thoughts about them inviting the cast's children to the taping?
Kind of just felt obligatory. Like, what
I
are the other options? Not have them come to the thing? I mean,
Well, they just like incorporated them so much into the show.
I'd rather them incorporate the kids than do something like what Love is Blind and just randomly go out to arbitrary past contestants that nobody knows or cares about and ask them. I look, it's relevant. These are people that in a lot of cases, these are the people that really pushed their parents into going on this show. These are the people that are closest to them and know them very well and can provide additional insights. So it's also immediate family, which is seems like this is something that immediate family members would go to for support. So it just kind of seemed like, what else would they do? And if you're going to go to the crowd, which we all know I hate the going to the crowd thing. I hate all of that type of stuff. I would rather you go to the crowd and talk to somebody that could provide some relevant insight as opposed to going to the crowd to some just random arbitrary person,
Mm-hmm.
i.e. what Love is Blind did, right? Which was just
Okay.
awful experience. Did you like the kids being there, or did you think it added value?
I think it did in providing more context, in continuing to make these men seem, more well-rounded. We heard from, the main characters' kids, all of them for the most part. And so I liked it. And I also liked getting to kind of like put faces to names to the kids that we didn't get to meet at hometowns, or like in Mark's case, like hadn't already met in another way. So yeah, I thought it was nice. I really like Charles's daughter, and Pascal's son. I thought they were great.
So anything else we want to talk about regarding the guys before Joan shows up on the couch?
No, let's go to Joan.
All right. So Joan shows up looking amazing like always, wearing a dress that, quite frankly, a woman 30 years younger than her could not pull off.
Pull off,
Just
yeah.
looking stunning. I mean, Jesse said it best. What did he say? It was elegance and class and some
Class,
other something else.
yeah,
Nailed it with that.
yeah.
That
She
statement.
she was like a smoke show tonight,
Yes.
like absolutely gorgeous.
And I'm just gonna repeat myself. I saw what Maxim was doing. I'm just saying. I see where he's trying to lay some foundation. Maybe I'm the only one who sees it, but I saw him eyeing Joan. I feel very committed to the take that Pascal's son is looking
Another
to steal.
podcast I listened to said the same thing. Like he was flirting with her, and I was like, "Damn, I am oblivious."
Like, I'm just saying, I feel very confident about my Maxim is macking on Joan take. I'm just saying, feel very confident about that take. But yeah, look, I thought Joan was gracious. She was, she's very classy, elegant. The one thing that I wanted to ask you about was what we've been critical of in the past, and that is the pedestaling of the lead. And this
Mhm.
did feel like a moment where there was a tremendous amount of pedestaling, where everybody just goes around and tells the lead how impactful the experience was to them
You
and how
know,
much
it,
she's changed
it
a life.
I truly didn't notice it in the same way. And I think it's because they did so much for the first hour and 15 minutes about how one another changed their lives. And it felt like
Mhm.
they put the experience on the pedestal and not necessarily Joan. And so it didn't hit, I'm always really kind of like sensitive to this. It didn't hit
Yes.
in that same way. And so like, even when they were like, you were great, I think it was more like this, you kind of like facilitated us being able to have this experience, was kind of like the read that I was getting from what they were saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. Like I don't think I would have even identified it necessarily as pedestaling if we hadn't
Mm-hmm.
been so critical of it season after
Mm-hmm.
season after season.
Mm-hmm.
Because I agree with you. It felt a little bit more genuine.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree because there was so much, talking of the camaraderie and the brotherhoods and all of this other stuff that we'd gotten throughout really the whole season, but specifically in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
um it just hit different, right? It didn't feel like this was, oh, we're doing all the obligatory things. It all just felt like another piece to a larger narrative about this
Yeah.
season, and it all just sort of aligned, right? And that's, I think, and as I was thinking about this topic, part of the problem that the pedestaling, I think, hits so wrong for us is that there is always a narrative of the plot, like what's actually happening, what are we observing, what are we
Mm-hmm.
feeling, what are we seeing. And oftentimes the pedestaling is in direct conflict with what we feel as though the narration has been up to that
Yeah.
point. And so it's sort of because that tension, that conflict just automatically makes it so obvious and apparent. And here we
Mm-hmm.
have a season where no, the pedestaling actually felt in line with the broader narrative, and thus it just felt genuine, and I thought it was additive in a way that in other seasons it's really a frustration and a distraction.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I totally
Mm-hmm.
agree.
Um, Noteworthy things here. Obviously, Jonathan lets her know that he found somebody. She's happy for him. We get a nice exchange between her and Pascal,
Mm-hmm.
where it feels like there's no animosity. She tells all the guys that she loves them all as friends, which is something that she's prone to doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we basically wrap it up, get the bloopers. Anything with Joan that we want to touch on else?
No, I mean, she looks amazing, which I hope means that she's happy with whatever the
She
outcome
looks
is.
happy, right?
Yeah.
Whatever the outcome was, she looks content and at peace with whatever the outcome was.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, quick predictions before we get out of here. Do we still feel committed that Chalk is the pick?
I how I didn't even remember how many men were left or who the second guy was. Truly, I spent the whole night searching the couch or the chairs for Guy. I was like, where is this guy? And I'm like, oh yeah, he's still
Mm-hmm.
over there.
Yep. I still feel strongly that Chalk is the pick.
They're trying to set
And
it up in the teaser that she sends him home or something, but she's clearly walking. It appears that she's walking to Guy's room to send him home. That's, I
I don't
think,
know
what
how you know
happens.
whose room is room, but I'll trust
I
your
don't.
judgment.
I'm just saying, like, they're trying to do a bait and switch, and I'm.
Yeah,
It's
which
like
they're prone to
it's
do in this show. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. And so next prediction, if you had to handicap one of these men being the next Golden Bachelor, who you handicapping? Who's getting
I
your?
mean, I could see them doing Guy. There's enough internet love for Guy. He's handsome. He would just need to like grow more of like an on-screen personality. There's
Mhm.
clearly a lot of love for Charles L. I could see them trying to capitalize on like America's, obsession with him. And then again, Pascal, I guess, would be number 3. I think he'd be the most entertaining. I just don't know that he's ready. Although he and Charles L maybe appear the same level of readiness in some ways. Still kind of
Yeah,
fresh.
I'm going with Pascal. If you said, hey, go to Vegas and put $100 down on a pick, I with Jonathan would be the front runner, but if he's off the table, I think Mark. I don't see that being a solid direction. I think Charles L can't carry a season. I don't think Guy has the strength of personality to carry a season. Um, I think Keith would be interesting, but I don't think he has the sex appeal that's necessary to carry a season. So, we're kind of Pascal is the fit. Sex appeal, great accent, successful. Very, as you put it out earlier, very classic Bachelor, what you kind of
Mm-hmm.
expect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think he'd be wildly entertaining. And I think he did enough laying of groundwork and foundation about having figured himself out and being ready
But
that
can you see
that
him like having serious conversations all day?
I think that
I mean,
he
I
would
know I'm
be.
not to say that he doesn't have depth to him, but like he also, I don't know.
I mean, Jen Tran.
Fair. He could talk about his breakup, for an entire season.
Yeah. Speaking of
Um,
Jen Tran, no Dancing with the Stars this week because of
mhm,
the election. So
mhm,
I'm sorry if you were here to get Dancing with the Stars recaps. There was no Dancing with the Stars. So hit us back next week, and
mhm.
we will have recaps on Joey because spoiler, last week Jen did get eliminated. So um, yeah,
Yeah,
hang tight for that next week. Do we have two? Are we getting two dances next week or just one?
I don't know.
Oh, I got to look into that. I hope we get two. Otherwise, we're going to talk about it. We only got one contestant left. I'm happy you asked about my Rose this week.
Love it. My thorn this week.
I hated to see that.
Rose, Pascal's green suit.
Mm.
Loved it. Joan's dress, or Joan in general, she looked like a goddess. She looked amazing. Learning about Mark's post-its, loved that. And I loved the the Tibetan Joan chant. I thought that was great. And I thought Jesse, as usual, did a great job hosting. And I loved the moment where Charles told him, like, before this, I didn't like know who you were. I thought that was really fun.
That was hilarious.
So like some like fun light moments from the episode. Thorns, we didn't need 90 minutes. All of the recaps, it felt like we didn't really need all of them, though I guess when compared to Love is Blind, you do realize that you need them. But I think it's just I think my thorn is seeing the juxtaposition between where we are now in the season and what we had, and kind of like mourning that loss. I think that's what my thorn is.
Rose, I really liked the sort of arc that we got from Kim, him kind of laughing at himself. I just thought that was a good moment for him, good moment for the show. Love the brotherhood, kind of stuff that we got to see. For my thorn, I think we had one too many hot seats. We could have done without one. What did we get? We got Jonathan, Charles L., Mark, Pascal. I think we probably could have dumped Mark. I understand why they put Mark there, but realistically speaking, he wasn't really a factor in the season. He was only there because he was Kelsey's dad. If he wasn't Kelsey's dad and somehow still managed to get on the show, then, I mean, he would have been eliminated really quickly and he would have been a non-factor and gotten no time whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
I think we all know that. And so I didn't find, and the story he told in the hot seat was the same narrative that we've already gotten in Joey's season with Kelsey and what we've already seen multiple times in the show. So if we had to cut time out for other things or to shorten the show, I feel like we didn't need 4 hot seats.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. That's fair. All right. So we are wrapped for Men Tell All for Joan's season of The Bachelorette. We will be back next week with the finale, which is actually titled as Finale Part 2. So we will see who Joan inevitably picks, unless she, picks herself and goes on to live a single life. I don't know. So we'll be back talking about the finale. And also, as Chris said, we will also be back with a Dancing with the Stars recap, focusing on Joey, Danny Amendola, and I don't know who our third will be this week, or next week rather. So you'll find out.
Put it in the comments if you care.
Yeah, put it in the comments. Who should we pay attention to? Also in the comments, this season's coming to an end. Are there other shows, movies, etc., that you might want us to give our takes to? We want to hear from you about that as well. Until next time, you can follow along with us on Instagram at Reactivity TV. You can follow me at Amy Albero LCSW. Keep all of your feedback and comments coming in the comment section. We love hearing from you. You can also reach out to us at wishingyouwell@revivecfw.com. We will see you next week. Bye.
See ya.